Okay, another career video. Let's have a look at the career of, in my opinion, one of the best strikers Uruguay has ever seen, and one of the best players in the world for a period of time, and that is Diogo Forlan. Diogo Forlan is one of my favourite players, brilliant striker for Uruguay, and apart from his stints at Inter Milan and at Manchester United, which didn't go so well. His time at Villarreal and his time at Atletico Madrid, he was a fantastic player. At the peak of his powers, from the mid-2000s until the early 2010s, he was one of the best players in the world before starting to wind down his career in the 2010s. Fantastic player, and in my opinion, the best player Uruguay has ever produced. Suarez has obviously had more caps, and Cavani is also quite a good player as well. But Diogo Forlan was part of a terrifying front three for Uruguay when Uruguay were one of the best international teams in the world again in the early 2010s. But we have to go back to Uruguay. We have to go to Penarol, where he starts his youth career, before moving to Danubio, also in Uruguay, where he continues his youth career before Independiente in Argentina come along, and he finishes his youth career with Independiente, and then gets his start in the senior team in 1997. As a senior player at Independiente, between 97 and 2002, he had 80 appearances and scored 37 goals. And this is where Manchester United come calling. And this big move to Europe happens in 2002. He's signed by Sir Alex Ferguson. And he joins a pretty good Manchester United team. In the middle of their rivalry between Manchester United and Arsenal, he gets brought into this cauldron of a rivalry where you've got Keane and Vieira, and then you've got Wenger and Ferguson. This is the peak rivalry of the 2000s. So, in 2 seasons at Manchester United, he played 63 times. He only scored for 10 goals, and it wasn't a happy stay in Manchester, Old Trafford. However, he wins his first senior silverware. He wins the league, the FA Cup, and the Community Shield as a Manchester United player, even though a lot of people forget he played for Manchester United. He did not have a happy time there. He couldn't recapture the form that he had at Independiente in Argentina. And a lot of people were saying he's a bust, he's a flop, he's not going to hack it in England, he's not going to hack it in Europe. But Villarreal in 2004 come along and they take Diogo Forlan off Manchester United's hands and turn him into one of the best players in the world. With Villarreal, in 3 seasons between 2004 and 2007, he plays 106 times for Villarreal in a pretty stacked side, let's be honest. Scored 54 goals, which is basically a goal every 2 games. He wins the Intertoto Cup, which is one of the more forgotten European competitions, but again, he wins silverware. And he's starting to really develop into a brilliant number 10. He can play a little bit deeper. He can play as part of a front 2 or front 3, up by himself, maybe as an attacking midfielder. He really develops as a player. He makes a Champions League semi-final, alongside the likes of Riquelme and Serene, for example, a pretty stacked Villarreal side in the mid-2000s. And it's this form at Villarreal that earns a move to Atletico Madrid in 2007. And this is where he really hits the peak of his powers. He plays 134 games between 2007 and 2011 for Atletico Madrid, scoring 74 goals. He also wins the Europa League in 2010, beating Fulham, and also won the UEFA Super Cup as well for Atletico Madrid. And this is where Atletico Madrid are starting to build their foundations of what would become a very successful side in their own right in the 2010s into the 2020s. And it's at this point he's one of the best players in the world. So Inter Milan come calling in 2011. And he earns his move from Madrid to Milan. And he only spends the 1 season at Inter, and it doesn't go very well. Very similar to his stint at Manchester United, except injuries impact him a little bit. He only played 18 games in that 2011-2012 season. Couldn't recapture the form he'd shown at Villarreal and Atletico Madrid, and at international level scored only 2 goals. So a very disappointing season at Inter Milan in the 2011-2012 season, and he decides to go back to South America. Internacional of Brazil come calling in 2012. He signs with them for 2 seasons, plays 34 games, scores 10 goals, so his goals per game ratio has dropped off a little bit. He wins the Campeonato Gaucho with Internacional in Brazil, and you can see now his career is really winding down. He's had a fantastic career up to this point, especially in Spain. And then Cerezo Osaka in Japan come calling, and he makes the switch and decides to try the Japanese J-League out. Plays a season there in 2014 to 2015 season. Plays 42 games, so he plays a full season, 17 goals. So his goals are up. And he's winding down his career at this point. He then decides to go back to Uruguay, where he started his youth career at Penarol, who would later manage in the Uruguayan top flight for the 2015-2016 season. Plays 30 games, scores 8 goals, wins the league title. So he's while he's winding down his career, he's that veteran presence. He's had that European experience, and some of these younger players at Penarol could benefit from Forlan being in the side. After the season at Penarol finishes in 2016, obviously the India comes calling because they're trying to start up this Super League type thing, similar to the IPL in cricket. He signs with Mumbai City, plays 11 games, scores 5 goals. And there's a period where he doesn't play, doesn't have a contract. And then Kitchi in Hong Kong in 2018 signed him, plays 7 games, scores 5 goals. Then he decides, you know what, I'm gonna retire now. In total, at club level, he played 525 senior games, scoring 222 goals in total at club level. Uruguay, he plays for the international team from 2002, so when he signs with Manchester United, till 2014, 112 caps, 36 goals, including the Golden Ball at the 2010 World Cup. He was also joint top scorer at the 2010 World Cup, including one of the best free kicks you'll ever see. 6 World Cup goals in total for Uruguay. He also won the 2011 Copa America with Uruguay. This is when Uruguay won one of the best nations in the world at this point. When you've got Cavani, Suarez and Forlan up front, that's a pretty lethal strike trio, and they are scoring goals for fun. He was the first Uruguayan player to 100 caps as well. Suarez would later surpass that cap record. So Diogo Forlan as a player, fantastic career. That stint at Manchester United, many people said, he's a flop, he's not going to make it. He didn't really settle. The transition from South American football to English Premier League, I think, it was too early in his career. He didn't really have enough time at Manchester United either to fully adapt to the English game. But in Spain with Villarreal and Atletico Madrid, he just rips the league up, scores the majority of his club goals in Spain, the majority of his club appearances. About I'd say 20% of his club appearances happen in Spain, and it's at that point he's one of the best players in the world. Absolutely. Brief stint in management. He's not done a lot in management. He did manage Penarol in Uruguay for a brief stint, but otherwise management, he hasn't really decided to go down the managerial route. He does do a lot of TV work for TV. He also an ambassador for the Uruguayan FA. He does appear at FIFA events as well. Fantastic player. One of my favourite players. I think he made my all-time favourite starting 11, I think, back in 2018. I put him in my all-star starting 11 team, I do believe. I thoroughly enjoyed watching him play. And with Villarreal and Atletico Madrid, he was a fantastic player. By the time he joins Inter Milan, injuries have started to impact him a little bit. But then after leaving Inter Milan at Internazionale and Ceresco Osaka, the goal scoring comes back and he's back in form, and then he winds down his career with Penarol, where I think is a fitting end. His last major silverware comes at Penarol, where he started his youth career back in Uruguay. I think that's a fitting end to booknote his career. So there we go. There's a brief look at the career of Diogo Forlan. In my opinion, a very underrated player. I think some people would forget how good Forlan was in the 2000s and 2010s. He was a fantastic player at his peak. I think he's Uruguay's greatest ever player, in my personal opinion. Others will say Cavani or Suarez, but in my opinion, I think he's, in my humble opinion, he's Uruguay's greatest ever player. And he was part of that Uruguay team that in the 2010, late 2000s, early 2010s was one of the best teams in the world. And yeah, he's got a Copa America to his name and a World Cup semi-final. So fantastic player. And criminally underrated. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope I didn't butcher any of my South American pronunciations of Independiente and Internacional and Penarol, but if I have butchered them, I do apologise. But from me for now, that is goodbye, and I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.